"Sir, please marry my mother and you'll be rich," said the little girl to the poor delivery man, who was completely shocked. What happens next will be shocking. The sentence burst out like a challenge between the aisles of parcels and labels in the depot. Lisa, 9 years old, stood on her tiptoes, looking at Joseph as if she had just stated the solution to a great mystery. Joseph let out a short laugh. A delivery man for years, he had seen absurd requests, children's jokes. He knew how to recognize the mockery behind the laughing eyes. Yet there was something else in the little girl's voice, a contained urgency, a vibration that ruffled the familiar fabric of his everyday life. Joseph placed the box he was carrying on the cold metal counter of the depot. The place smelled of damp cardboard and machine oil, a mixture that had clung to his clothes since the morning. He wiped his hands on his worn work pants, trying to chase away the day's fatigue. "You want me to—" What do you want me to do?" he asked, attempting a joke to put the truth back in its place. He already imagined the little girl going home, laughing at her own audacity, forgetting everything while playing with her dolls. Lisa frowned, imitating more than understanding an adult's irony. She crossed her arms over her thin chest, her small pink backpack hanging from her back like a weight too heavy for her shoulders. "Marry my mother. She needs help, Jacob. Jacob hits her. If you marry her, he won't be able to touch us. And she has money, a lot of dollars. You'll be rich." Joseph felt a chill run up his spine. He was 30, living a simple life of dusty roads and urgent orders. He had no children, no wife for years, just a tiny apartment above a garage where he kept his tools. Children's stories, he would brush them aside, but here, Lisa's words stuck. He tried to laugh again, to lighten the atmosphere. "Listen, kid, I'm a delivery man, not Prince Charming. Your dad is just tired from work, right? Come on, go back to school." But Lisa didn't move. Her eyes, large and dark, filled with tears that she swallowed with an angry blink. "He's not my dad. He's Jacob, and he's not tired. He drinks, he yells. Yesterday he threw a plate at Mom. Her arm hurt. She told me not to say anything, but I know you're nice. You always give me a candy when you deliver, please." Joseph stopped short. The candies were his silly thing for the neighborhood kids, a way to feel useful without effort. But now it tied him to this child like an invisible thread. He knelt to be at her height, feeling the day's sweat running down his back. "Lisa, that's your name, right? Listen to me. If this is true, you need to talk to someone. The police or a teacher. Not a delivery man like me." She shook her head violently. "Jacob knows people in the police. And the teachers, they say Mom is weird. They think she takes medicine that makes her crazy. But it's Jacob who gives it to her. He says it's for her own good. Please marry her. You're strong. You have a van. We can leave." Joseph slowly stood up, his heart beating a little too fast. He glanced around the depot. His colleagues were loading pallets, indifferent. He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out a mint candy, holding it out to Lisa as a peace offering. "Take this, and promise me not to come here alone again. I'll think about it. Tell me your address at least, just to make sure you get home safely." Lisa hesitated, then recited the address in one breath. Like a memorized phone number, 47 Rue des Oliviers. Apartment 3B. Mom's name is Annie. She took the candy without unwrapping it and turned on her heel, her sneakers squeaking on the concrete floor. Joseph watched her leave, a knot in his stomach. He went back to work, but the packages seemed heavier, the roads longer. That evening, after his last delivery, Joseph parked in front of the building at 47 Rue des Oliviers. It was an affluent building, with a light stone facade and a porch guarded by a concierge. Nothing like the low-income housing he knew. He got out of his van, hands sweating, feeling ridiculous. What was he going to say? "Good evening, your daughter offered to marry me to save your life." He pressed the intercom, randomly choosing the name Dupont from the list, but it was Fatou, the concierge, who answered. "Yes?" Her voice was warm, with a West African accent that rolled the R's. "Good evening, I'm a friend of Lisa's. She forgot a package at my place." A silence, then the click of the door. Fatou was waiting for him downstairs, a round woman with braided hair and apron tied around her waist. She scrutinized him with her sharp eyes. "A friend of Lisa's? The little one doesn't talk about friends much. Come in, but quickly. Mrs. Annie is out and Mr. Jacob doesn't like unexpected visitors." Joseph entered the lobby, smelling jasmine and wax. "Jacob, is he her husband?" Fatou nodded, lowering her voice. "Yes, he's complicated, you know. Screams at night, slamming doors. The little one sometimes cries on the stairs. Mrs. Annie, she's kind, but she looks so tired, as if she's carrying the world on her shoulders. Go on, go up, apartment 3B, and be discreet. Joseph climbed the steps, his heart pounding. He knocked on the door, and it was Lisa who opened it, her eyes wide with surprise and relief. You came. She pulled him inside by the sleeve, closing the door behind him. The apartment was spacious with dark wood furniture and thick rugs. But there was a tension in the air, like a taut thread about to snap. Books were piled messily on a table, and a cold cup of tea sat near a turned-off computer. Lisa guided him to the living room. Mom will be back soon, sit down. I'll show you. She ran into a room and came back with a crumpled school notebook. On it, clumsy drawings. A woman with a bandaged arm, a tall man with a face red with anger. Look, that's Jacob. And here, that's Mom after he pushed her down the stairs. Joseph took the notebook, his fingers trembling. The drawings were childish, but the emotions were raw, unfiltered. He felt a wave of nausea rise. Lisa, why don't you tell anyone? Because Jacob says if I talk, he'll send us to an orphanage. And Mom is scared. She says it's her fault, that she's not strong enough. But you can help us. The front door suddenly slammed, heels on the wooden floor. Annie entered out of breath, a black coat over her shoulders. She was 33, with brown hair tied in a loose bun, a pale face marked by deep dark circles. When she saw Joseph, she stopped dead, a hand on her chest. Who are you? Lisa, what the... Lisa rushed to her. Mom, it's Joseph. The nice delivery man. I told him about Jacob. He's going to marry you. Annie went even paler, so much so that Joseph thought she would faint. She leaned against the wall, her eyes moving from her daughter to the stranger. Get out! Please get out of here. Jacob will be back, and if... Joseph stood up, hands held out. Madam, my name is Joseph. Your daughter talked to me at the depot. She's worried. I don't mean any harm, just... Let me help you. If what she says is true... Annie closed her eyes for a moment, as if to gather her strength. Then she took Lisa in her arms, holding her tightly. Go to your room, sweetheart. Mom will take care of this. Once the little girl had left, she turned to Joseph, her voice low and broken. It's true, everything, Jacob. He wasn't like this at first, but for 2 years it's been hell. The blows, the insults, and worse. He controls everything. My friends, my money. He says I'm sick, that I need his pills. But I know he's the one who makes them. With a doctor he pays. Joseph sat down again, the weight of her words pinning him down. Why don't you leave? With the money Lisa mentions. Annie laughed, a short, bitter sound. The money? My family left it. My parents died 3 years ago in a car accident. Jacob managed everything. The wills, the accounts. I signed papers without reading, because he swore it was for our good. Now I have no access to anything. He says I would spend it all on nonsense, that I'm unstable. And Lisa, if I leave without her, he'll keep her to punish me. Tears were running down her cheeks now, silently. Joseph felt a dull rage rise in him, mixed with an unexpected tenderness for this broken but proud woman. I'm nobody, Annie, just a delivery man. But I can listen. I can check. Give me a chance, she nodded slowly. Okay, but not a word to Jacob. He gets back at midnight. Come back tomorrow as if for a delivery. Joseph left, his heart in turmoil. Outside, night had fallen, the city lights blinking like warnings. He drove aimlessly for a long time, thinking back to Lisa's eyes, Annie's trembling voice. For the first time in a long time, he felt alive, terrified but alive. The following days, Joseph turned his deliveries into a routine of discreet spying. He rang Annie's doorbell twice a week, bringing fictitious packages ordered online under a fake name. With each visit, he learned a little more. Annie showed him the bruises on her arms, hidden under long sleeves. She confided a bottle of pills to him, tranquilizers that left a bitter taste in her mouth and a fog in her head. Jacob says it's for my anxiety, but I sleep all the time and I lose my memory. Lisa, always present, drew while they talked. She sometimes intervened, with a frankness that disarmed Joseph. Joseph, if you marry Mom, can we get a dog? Jacob hates animals. He smiled despite the seriousness. A big one with floppy ears. But first, we fix the Jacob problem. One afternoon, while tidying boxes in the kitchen, Joseph noticed an open jewelry box on the counter. Inside, not jewelry, but crumpled prescriptions, medical bills in the name of a psychiatrist Annie didn't know. What is this? He asked. Annie paled. Stuff Jacob keeps. He says it's to prove I'm sick if I ever want a divorce. He has friends in the hospitals. They sign without checking. Joseph discreetly pocketed a prescription, his pulse quickening. That evening at home, he studied it in the light of his desk lamp. The dates didn't match. The doses were too strong. It was proof tiny but tangible. He decided to dig deeper. The next day he went to see Madame Coulibaly, the neighbor downstairs, a grey-haired widow who knitted on her balcony. She had seen him enter several times and was waiting for him with a hot tea. "You're Annie's friend." The poor thing. "I hear everything." The screams, the crying. "Once I saw Jacob drag her by the hair in the hallway. I wanted to call the police, but he threatened me." "Mind your own business, old witch," he said. Madame Coulibaly offered him a written testimony, trembling with her arthritic hand. "Tell Annie she's not alone. I raised 5 children. I know what fear is like." Encouraged, Joseph contacted the building's gardener, a thin man named Musa who trimmed the hedges early in the morning. Musa smoked a cigarette while listening to him. "Jacob? Yes, I see him. Trucks that come at night loaded with crates. He signs papers with guys in suits. Once I heard talk of money, transfers abroad. He thinks I'm deaf because I'm old." Musa promised to note the truck's license plates. Joseph wrote everything down in a notebook, the pages filling with hurried writing. Then came the accountant. By chance at the corner cafe, a heavy-set man named Daniel was sipping an espresso. Joseph had heard Annie mention a former family employee. "You knew Annie's parents?" he asked, sitting down uninvited. Daniel looked up, surprised. "Yes, sad story, their accident." Jacob took charge of everything afterwards. Too fast, in my opinion. I saw strange movements on the accounts. Funds to tax havens under names like Family Investments Limited. Annie didn't sign anything for that. It was Jacob, with forged powers of attorney. Daniel scribbled an account number on a paper napkin. "Go see a lawyer. David at the downtown firm. He's honest, unlike the other sharks. Tell him it's from me." Joseph found David the next day. The firm was modest, a tarnished brass plate on a wooden door. David, a man in his 40s with round glasses and a loose tie, listened without interrupting, sitting behind a desk covered with files. Joseph spilled everything. Lisa's words, Annie's bruises, the suspicious prescriptions, the testimonies. David pounded his fist on the table, his eyes shining with contained anger. "This is serious. Marital fraud, violence, maybe even forgery. But we need solid evidence. Start with a voice recorder. Record everything. And I'm going to check those offshore accounts. If it's true Annie is a multimillionaire, her parents had shares in gold mines in West Africa. Jacob must have siphoned off a fortune. Joseph bought a cheap voice recorder at the hardware store. On his next visit, he hid it in his pocket. Annie, more confident now, spoke freely. My parents left me everything. Stocks, properties. Jacob made me sign a marriage under community property, then transferred the money to accounts in his name. He says it's to protect the family, but I have nothing left. Just crumbs for groceries. Annie's recorded voice trembled with humiliation and rage. Joseph listened to it later, alone in his van, tears in his eyes. He contacted Commissioner Cohn, recommended by David. They met in a drab cafe near the train station, where the smell of grease permeated the air. Cohn was a massive man in his 50s, with a grizzled mustache and a weary look. Domestic violence. We see too much of it, Cohn said, stirring his sugar. But with money involved, it's more complicated. Jacob has connections. Politicians, crooked cops. Show me what you have. Joseph handed him the prescription and Madame Coulibaly's testimony. Cohn nodded. Not bad for a start. We'll set up a discreet file. No immediate intervention. He'd smell it out. Send me photos, recordings, and protect Annie. If she files a complaint, we can get a protection order. The plan was put in place. Joseph photographed the documents Annie slipped him, bank statements thrown in a drawer, showing transfers of millions of dollars to anonymous accounts. He installed a hidden microphone in a vase with the help of Samira, a nurse David knew. Samikra, a dynamic woman with short nails and an encouraging smile, came one evening under the pretext of a medical checkup. Show me your arms, Annie, she said gently, putting on gloves. She noted the bruises, took photos with her phone. These pills, give them to me. I'll have them analyzed. If it's overdosed benzodiazepine, it's a weapon. Annie cried while Samira examined her, a flood of tears released after months of silence. "I'm so scared for Lisa. If Jacob loses us, he'll break her like he broke me." Samira hugged her. "You're not broken. You're strong. And we're going to catch him." The evidence accumulated. Recordings of arguments where Jacob screamed threats, "You're nothing without me. I'll have you committed tomorrow." And photos of empty pill bottles. Statements showing transfers of $500,000 to an account in the Cayman Islands. Musa sent photos of trucks with plates linked to a shell company of Jacob's. Jacob started to sense something. Tensions rose. One evening, during a delivery, he opened the door himself, his eyes bloodshot. "What the hell are you doing here again? Who are you? A lover?" Joseph kept his calm, his heart pounding. "Just a package, sir." "For Madame." Jacob shoved him, snatching the package. "Get out, and tell your slut of a wife to stop ordering junk. She's spent enough already." Inside, Annie was trembling, Lisa hidden behind the sofa. "He knows," she whispered. "He searched me this morning. He found the notebook where I was noting the blows." Joseph called David and Cone urgently. They met in a motel on the outskirts, maps and files spread out on the bed. "We're speeding up," Cone said. "An anonymous letter to Jacob to make him crack. We'll lure him into a trap." The letter arrived 2 days later, slipped under the door. "We know about the accounts. Meet tomorrow, 10 p.m. Port Warehouse, or everything comes out." Jacob took the bait. Joseph, hidden in the shadows with Cone and 2 plainclothes officers, saw him arrive nervous, a bag in his hand. But instead of negotiating, Jacob panicked. He sped off, heading straight for the apartment. The fateful night, Joseph was watching the house from his van, parked on an adjacent street. He had promised Annie to keep watch. Around 2 a.m., a sound of broken glass. He jumped out of the cabin, running towards the building. Fatu, alerted, had already called the police. Inside, chaos. Jacob, drunk and furious, brandished a kitchen knife. Annie was pinned against the wall, blood running from her forehead. Lisa was screaming in a corner, hands over her ears. "You betrayed me, with that delivery man piece of trash. It's all your fault." Jacob roared. Joseph lunged at him, tackling him to the ground. They rolled, hitting the furniture. The knife slipped, cutting Joseph's arm. Jacob punched him in the face, a blow that made his nose bleed. "I'm going to kill you, you and her. The money is mine." Annie grabbed a lamp and brought it down on Jacob's head, stunning him enough for Joseph to overpower him. Sirens wailed outside. Cone and his men entered, handcuffing Jacob, who spat insults. "She's the crazy one. She's lying." Annie collapsed, breathless, a broken rib. Lisa huddled against Joseph, sobbing. "You saved us." At the hospital, the smell of antiseptic and fear permeated everything. Annie was in a white room, connected to IVs. Her eyes, clouded by morphine, sought Joseph as soon as he entered. Lisa was sleeping on a chair, exhausted. "Joseph," she whispered, extending a weak hand. He took it, feeling her cold skin. "You did for us what no one dared." "Thank you." He shook his head, his throat tight. "It was for Lisa, for you." They spoke softly for hours. Annie told him about her childhood, the laughs with her parents during trips to Africa. Jacob's promises at the beginning, so sweet. "I was naive. I believed in love. But now I see clearly, Lisa. She needs stability, not this shadow." The doctors came and went, murmuring grave prognoses, internal bleeding, possible infection. David arrived with papers, his face serious. "We can make a civil marriage official here. It protects Lisa. The inheritance will go directly to her with you as guardian." Annie nodded, tears flowing. "Marry me, Joseph, here now. Promise me you'll take care of my daughter. Teach her to be strong, never to keep quiet." The wedding was simple, David as a witness, a nurse to sign. They exchanged whispered vows, promises of protection. Joseph, his voice broken, said, "I swear it forever." Annie smiled faintly. "And the money? Use it well. Not for yourself, for her. For schools, for dreams." She signed the will, transferring legal guardianship to Joseph, and a portion of the fortune, billions in stocks and assets, to Lisa. Her eyes sought his one last time. "Love her as I love her." That night Annie passed away peacefully, her breath stopping like a blown-out candle. Lisa let out a heart-wrenching cry that woke the entire floor. Joseph held her tightly, crying with her, his body shaken with sobs. "She's gone, but she saved us. She united us." The funeral was intimate under a grey sky. The extended family, distant aunts, incredulous cousins, murmured about the inheritance. But Joseph stood firm, David by his side. "It's Annie's will. Lisa is in my custody." Jacob's trial lasted for months, a whirlwind of testimonies and experts. Madame Coulibaly recounted the nights of screaming, her tone firm despite her trembling. Musa showed the photos of the trucks. Daniel decrypted the fraudulent transfers. Samira presented the pill analyses, overdosed, illegal, without monitoring. Cohn testified about the attack, the bruises on Annie's body as irrefutable evidence. And the documents hidden in Jacob's safe, will falsifications, proof of manipulation in Annie's parents' accident, sealed his fate. Not an accident. Sabotaged brakes paid for by Jacob to inherit faster. The court sentenced him to 20 years. Fraud, aggravated violence, complicity in murder. The press headlined, "Family Fortune Scammer Unmasked by Delivery Man." Joseph avoided the cameras, protecting Lisa. With the inheritance, he paid the medical debts, hired therapists for Lisa. He transformed the apartment into a warm home, photos of Annie everywhere, a golden retriever named Max as promised. He quit his delivery job to open a center for victims of domestic violence, hiring Fatou as a receptionist, Musa as a caretaker, Samira for health workshops. Lisa grew up a bright-eyed teenager, excelling in drawing and law, inspired by David, who became a father figure. At night, when the nightmares came, she would slip into Joseph's room. "Tell me again how Mom chose you," he would, his voice soft. "She saw someone reliable in me. And you started everything. Your sentence at the depot, it changed our lives." At 16, Lisa testified in schools talking about silence and truth. "My mother taught me to scream when I need to, and Joseph taught me to heal." Joseph, now graying, watched her with immense pride. He hadn't sought wealth, but it had found him. Not in the money, but in shared laughter. Walks in the park, dinners with David and Cohn, who had become family. The city remembered. Annie as an icon of resilience, Jacob as a warning, and Joseph, the delivery man turned father, as proof that the ordinary can overcome the shadow. Years later, Lisa, a graduate, married a young lawyer. At the wedding, she took Joseph aside. "You kept your promise. Mom would be proud." He kissed her on the forehead. "You're the one who made it possible. Your truth, little one. It opened everything." And in the silence of quiet moments, Joseph reread Annie's letters, still feeling her hand in his. Life continued, woven with healed pain and rebuilt love, a promise kept through thick and thin.